allow me to introduce a comprehensive list of all the tariffs the Prime Minister has successfully had reduced on Canada. Cash-strapped and needed a break. Instead, the Prime Minister gave them the costliest budget in Canadian history and put it all on the national credit card. The parliamentary budget officer revealed the Prime Minister doubled Trudeau's deficits, added $16 billion more to the debt than he promised, is increasing the debt to GDP ratio, breaking another promise. $78 billion of additional debt works out to about $5,000 for every single cash-strapped family in this country. How does the Prime Minister expect single moms and seniors and small business people who can't pay their bills to pay another $5,000 for his inflation?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Conservatives. Mr. Speaker, what they did yesterday under this leader, they voted against investment in infrastructure. Under this leader, they voted against investment in housing. Under this Conservative leader, they voted against productivity and innovation in our country. Under this leader, they voted against investment in our sovereignty, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we'll build a strong Canada, we'll empower Canadians, and we'll protect our sovereignty because we believe in Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
And it begins, folks. The campaign to completely undermine and expose the problems with this budget. So, Pierre goes after the budget in terms that the normal Canadian like you and me can actually understand. And this is the way we've been actually framing this as well. It's more abstract when you say there's a $78 billion deficit, but it's less abstract when you actually put that in terms of dollars and cents that the average Canadian family is going to look at. So we were postulating that this is probably going to be more of a $100 billion deficit based on how much the Liberal government tends to go over budget. So on that figure, that would essentially add another $2,500 per person in this country to the amount that they're going to owe on behalf of this government. So what Pierre did is said, well, mom and dad, two parents, dad and dad, wife and wife, who knows? But two parents in a family, they're going to owe combined $5,000. And the average family does not have $5,000 to spend. And when you put it that way, it's going to make it a lot more relatable to the average person, especially the average swing voter, the senior, that's going to say, well, I don't have that much money. And those are the people that they're trying to actually reach out to. And then you have Champagne being Champagne. We will take no lessons from the Conservatives. Evidently not. And the fact that he's throwing out all of these terms and saying, well, they didn't invest in this, they didn't invest in that, and they voted against this, and they voted against that, and you hear the Liberals yell shame. Shame. Again, Chrystia Freeland's budget, $62 billion deficit that she resigned because she was so embarrassed to have to present that in the House, was dropped on the desk, and then the Liberals left the House because they were so embarrassed as to what that deficit was actually coming out to. $62 billion. And now they're saying that the Conservatives are shameful for not voting for a $78.3 billion deficit. You want to talk about shame? You should take lessons from Chrystia Freeland.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think anybody's been able to cram that many slogans into one answer, and this is coming from me. This is coming from me. Mr. Speaker, let's take housing. He says they're spending billions of dollars more on housing Housing, the results are out today. Housing starts down 17% year over year. Where we need the most in Toronto, down 42% year over year. Vancouver, 36% year over year. Ontario, down 35%. And BC, down 22%. Why is it that the more Liberals spend, the less that we can build?
The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the Leader of the Opposition is ignoring the year-to-date results. He's looking month to month. He's twisting the facts. He's getting confused in the numbers. Conservatives have a tough time with numbers sometimes. We understand that. Year-to-date, 2025 versus 2024, we are up 5% with housing starts.
Leader of the Opposition.
What are Canadians getting for the 28 trips, 150,000 kilometers, enough to circle the world 4 times that the Prime Minister's billed back to Canadians? Well, he met with the Americans, and they doubled tariffs on our steel, aluminum, autos, and tripled them on our forestry. He met with the Chinese, who increased tariffs on our farmers and fish harvesters. He met with the Indians. They increased tariffs on Canadian peas. He met the Brits, and they're keeping their blockade on our beef. Why is it that whenever the Prime Minister gets on a plane, Canadians end up paying more tariffs abroad?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
And this is what we said was going to happen, folks. And you're going to hear this from probably the Conservatives, the Bloc, and the NDP on repeat for the next 6 months. They're spending $78 billion. They got their budget passed. What are you getting for that money, Canadians? And the answer is zero. You are not going to be feeling any impact of this whatsoever. And this is what they're going to be saying. And Canadians are going to say, yeah, you know what? My grocery bill actually looks like it's even more than last month. Well, that can't be right. I was told that I was going to get a more affordable grocery bill. That's what I was told. And I was told that we have a genius that is going to be the Prime Minister of Canada. That's what he told me, and that's what the TV told me. That's why the TV told me to vote for the Liberals. So that's why I did. I don't understand. On repeat over and over and over and over again. And I think it's rich that Gregor Robertson talks about the fact that, oh, well, the Conservatives are twisting the facts. Did you hear what he said? He said, well, we're looking at housing starts year to date. He actually messed up his own stat. He's trying to say housing completions year to date, because those are the numbers they tried to screw around with in the budget. And we talked about this in our budget deep dive when we were talking about the Housing Accelerator and Build Canada Homes. And if you want to take a quick look at that right after this video, you'll be able to see that at the end. But the Coles notes is there's a bunch of housing starts from the condos in the boom that happened in 2021, 2022. And all those condos were finally done years later, because it takes years to build condos, right? So all of those were finally done in 2025. That's where they're cherry picking this data, and they're trying to say, oh, we built almost 280,000, almost 300,000 homes this year. Well, they're prorating it over the rest of the year, and that other data in the latter half of the year doesn't add up. And the Canadian Housing and Mortgage Corporation does not have any increase forecast for housing starts year over year. It's going down every single year. And lastly, Mr. Climate Activist himself, Mark Carney, going around all over the world, burning jet fuel, burning carbon emissions. We're so concerned about the climate and we're so concerned about carbon emissions. Why are you on a plane? Zoom call could accomplish that. No? Oh, okay. I guess we don't care about the environment that much. And how much are we paying for Mr. Carney to go around the world? This is what you're going to hear over and over, all these examples. So the campaign starts now.
We have good news for Canadians. Germany just signed a $1 billion deal with Lockheed Martin Canada to support jobs right here in this country. This is what Canadians are getting from the Prime Minister being on the world stage, selling what Canada has to offer. It's about unlocking new markets and creating good jobs here in Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So at first glance, that's going to sound like Carney did something. And we're getting investment. We're getting jobs. Well, not really. Not really. This is Mark Carney trying to take credit for walking on the moon again, folks. So what this is this is the German government, and they need some combat systems. So they went to an RFP for different vendors, and they ended up settling on Lockheed Martin's Canada's combat systems. So that's fine. Is this going to be creating jobs? No. Why? Because these things already exist. That's what they were reviewing. So, is it good that a Canadian company is getting money? Well, even that, it's not a Canadian company. It's a Canadian subsidiary of Lockheed Martin, which is a US-based company. So this is kind of rich that the Liberals are standing up and cheering about this, celebrating the fact that the German government is using $1 billion to buy systems from Canada when the profit of those is actually going to go south of the border. So congratulations, you're actually helping an American defense contractor that has a Canadian subsidiary. At least we're not losing jobs. Yay?
With the Prime Minister billing millions of dollars for his high-flying trips around the world, 28 trips, 150,000 kilometers, now is the time for a scorecard. The Americans have increased tariffs on Canadian autos, aluminum, steel, and lumber. The Indians have increased tariff on our peas. The Chinese increased it on our farmers, our fish harvesters. Now, allow me to introduce a comprehensive list of all the tariffs the Prime Minister has successfully had reduced on Canada.
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
So if you heard, you started to hear all of the Liberals start yelling prop. Why would they do that? Why wouldn't they want Pierre to show everybody the full list of all of the accomplishments of Mark Carney in terms of reducing tariffs? Because they knew the list was blank. And it's technically not a prop, which I imagine is why the speaker kind of let it go. He was going, it's not really a prop, because he's referring to a document, and you are allowed to refer to a document when you are asking a question in the House. It's not Pierre's fault that the document was completely blank. That would be the fault of the person who caused it to be completely blank, and that would be the Prime Minister, Mark Carney.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader continues to stand against support for Canadian workers and businesses. He has refused to support our government's plan to double non-U.S. exports over the next decade. In fact, he called Canadian exports other than oil pixie dust. Does the Conservative leader think our $5 billion in beef exports is pixie dust, or the LNG headed to South Korea from BC, or what about the $7.6 billion worth of fish and seafood caught by hardworking Canadians? Why there's imaginary taxes or pixie dust, the Conservative leader needs to get on board and out of the way, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean.
So before we get to the block, what they're calling pixie dust is the fact that you think that you're going to be doubling these exports. That's the pixie dust. It's not going to happen. You don't just walk away from your largest trading partner by a country mile and then 2 farms more. But you don't do that. So I don't know what you think you're going to do here. They're trying to say, well, we've signed all these trade agreements. It's a brilliant move by our Prime Minister. Great, you signed trade agreements. That doesn't mean that trade's going to actually happen. And when it's more expensive for companies to actually ship stuff overseas than truck it down south, pretty sure they're going to truck it down south and not actually trade with those other countries, because it doesn't make sense.
Mr. Speaker, last week, Quebec announced that it will be laying off 87 workers in their media division. In fact, over the past 2 years, nearly 800 TVA employees have lost their jobs. This is devastating for Quebec's culture and for the diversity of information in Quebec. Quebec's largest private TV station is on the brink of collapse, and Ottawa is doing nothing. Ottawa prefers to watch our TV station die a slow death. How many more people need to be laid off for this government to wake up? The Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. Mr. Speaker, our thoughts go out to families and communities affected by these layoffs. My Bloc Québécois colleague's question would be more relevant if the Bloc Québécois had not voted for the most significant budget in Canadian history, which, if they had voted for it, they should have voted for it because we have credits to support journalism. They have voted against money for local journalism in Quebec and everywhere in Canada. So it's incomprehensible, Mr. Speaker. It makes no sense. Can you imagine how the people at TVA are interpreting the message the Liberals are sending them? The Liberals say, we're making historic investments in culture, but there's not a penny in it for you lot. You lot, you can disappear for all we care. That's the Liberals' message to TVA. And these same Liberals were the only ones who refused to take part in a debate on TVA, which was asking for money because it didn't have any left. TVA broadcasts our music and our stories. TVA sparks discussion and debate. Quebecers identify with TVA, but Ottawa doesn't give a damn. What does Ottawa have against our television? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, in the budget, which the Bloc Québécois voted against, there is $150 million for Radio-Canada CBC, which is the most significant culture producer in Quebec. They voted against it. There's $26 million for the National Film Board, which is in Montreal, Mr. Speaker. They voted against that. There's $127 million for the Media Fund, $48 million for the Music Fund. They voted against all of those initiatives in the budget for culture in Quebec and everywhere in Canada, and that's outrageous, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, wanted to show you that because that was intense from MP Normandin. Very, very astute MP, and have a lot of respect for her, despite the fact that, she supports the Bloc platform. But what a response to her. So TVA, which is, one of the major TV stations in Quebec, they're having to lay people off, and this was the same TV agency where there's traditionally a debate in French done during the federal election, and Carney refused because they were asking for, I think it was $75,000 from each of the parties. The Conservatives even offered to pay for Mark Carney $75,000 to go there, and they were still refused. Still. Every other party said sure. Even the NDP. So this is crazy. And the response that Gilbo has for this is, but we're giving $150 million to the CBC. You think that's going to fly? But beneath the actual question itself, this is how the Bloc is going to be attacking the budget, right? They are going to be attacking this as Ottawa versus Quebec culture. That's one of the aspects that they're coming after this, to try to swing a lot of the Quebec voters away from the Liberals and back to the Bloc. We're going to be the ones standing up to protect your culture. We're going to be the ones standing up to fund culture. Ottawa just wants to destroy it, and Ottawa wants to rip it away. So that's what they're doing. And you're starting to see a shift in Quebec. And as we say, the Liberals have to win Quebec in order to win the election. So the Bloc is successful in their attacks. That's a good thing for the Conservatives. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So very interesting. And let's now skip to Don Davies.
Last year, this Parliament passed legislation to deliver diabetes and contraceptive medications to every Canadian through our public health care system. This is vital to millions of people's health and the foundation of universal Pharmacare. Liberals promised Canadians in Budget 2025 they would protect Pharmacare, but they didn't allocate any money to it. No. Will the Prime Minister clearly confirm that he will keep his word and make funding available to every province and territory who wants to sign a Pharmacare agreement with the federal government?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
So our government will always protect Canada's healthcare system, including Pharmacare and dental care. These are clear commitments, and we will keep them. I am having conversation with all provinces and territories to see how we can best support them to strengthen our healthcare system, including on Pharmacare.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? So, NDP were promising Pharmacare last year. This year, there's no money for it. And the response from the ministers, well, we're talking with people to see what we can do to strengthen Pharmacare. What? Let us hope that Mark Carney is so egotistical that he doesn't fund the Pharmacare program. That would give so much ammunition to the NDP and NDP voters to potentially go back to the NDP from the Liberals. That would give them something to campaign on. Gives them a platform to fight for Pharmacare. They don't really even need a lot else. Sure, they will try and say we're fighting for the unions and the workers and that sort of thing. But you give them something as juicy as Pharmacare for their next campaign, that is a recipe for success for the NDP to potentially get party status back. And remember, folks, when the Bloc are going to do well and the NDP do well and the Conservatives do well, that will result in a Conservative majority in the next election. And this is what you're seeing now from these three parties is they've solidified their lane. They are now attacking this budget, and they will be picking it apart and reminding Canadians that out of all of this money that the government is spending, it is having a net effect of zero on the average lives of the average Canadians. And this is why you can't trust the Liberals for an 11th year.